Hey guys, welcome to a Codex review here of the new book, Codex Imperial Agents. So before we start, kind of address, we've obviously not been around or doing games for the past couple months. It's been a pretty rough couple months for us. We had a death that was really rough on us.
Yeah, it was a really hard loss.
Yeah. So, we do apologize, for being absent for so long. Thank you so much for all those who still, are on the channel.
Still watching, thank you.
And are paying attention to what, our old videos are. And, hopefully this video should hopefully mark the start of us returning.
Yep.
More of the, what you guys were getting used to from us, which is about once every week and a half. You'd get a video out, a battle report out from us. On that also note, hopefully all future reports will be filmed on a new camera.
Woo.
Yeah, so that is a good announcement for you guys. That means you'll actually be able to see the, all the details of the models and
the work
table and all that stuff.
And everything. It'll be awesome.
And of course, Christmas is probably going to mean some new stuff that will appear on the channel as well after the holiday. I wouldn't necessarily expect a video from us maybe between Christmas and New Year's, but I don't know. We're seeing probably not. But you never know. It just depends if we find the time. But I would definitely, with the start of the new year, you'll start seeing a lot more videos from us. So
definitely kind of a bit of a fun New Year's resolution type deal too.
Right. So with that, we're going to hop into this. I will say that I think that this is probably...
It's a very comprehensive codex.
I don't know if that's true, but it is. It's big. There's an insane amount of stuff in this codex. But I will say I also think this is probably going to be one of the most contentious codexes that Games Workshop, at least that I've seen and looked at, has ever put out. Granted, keep in mind we've only been playing for a year, and I've seen older codexes and stuff like, Daniel has the Space Marine Codex, or Chaos Space Marine Codex, and I've seen a lot of the really old ones too, the ones that are even out of print right now. But
so you think this one has like a lot of the changes?
I think this one is going to be very contentious. I think it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. However, there's also, I think, a lot of good things in this codex.
Yes.
And also some stuff that, while useful for anyone who's playing Imperial factions, there's at least one thing that I feel is not very fluffy, if very powerful. And I'm not sure that's great for the game, but it's something that, I'm still going to talk about, and we can at least address it. Yeah. We're also probably not going to... A lot of this codex is old vehicle models, and there's no new models in this codex. No. This is all old stuff, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on...
Yeah, it's mostly we'll be describing some of the new
formations and detachments and what goes in them and some of the shenanigans you can pull with them. But yeah, we're not going to go down and describe every unit play-by-play like you did with the Deathwatch Codex or the...
Especially since like a lot of these units you'll probably, as he mentioned, familiar with anyways. Especially if you play the Imperium.
Yeah, there's a lot of units that you're probably familiar with that you can bring in new different ways that in some cases are really useful, in other cases
probably not.
Not so much. And one of those is Games Workshop's own fault through FAQ.
You will bring that up.
So we're going to jump into the start of the codex. As you can see, we're just going to show you thickness wise of the book.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of actual fluff in here.
It just goes straight into the
basically, essentially this part here that you're looking at right there, that's all the fluff, and pictures too. And that is all data sheets. Like all of that is data sheets. So there is a lot of stuff in this book. That's part of the reason we're not going to cover all the data sheets, because truthfully you don't need them, especially if you're familiar with the Imperium armies anyways. So the first thing to cover is the forces of the cult Mechanicus. They're the first faction covered in this book. So these guys aren't awful. They're definitely a good way to get this into a Scutari. But that's going to be the main place you actually get use out of this, is Scutari, with the exception of, it wouldn't surprise me to see people take this formation just to get some servitors with plasma cannons. Basically, by bringing in Engine Seer, the formation allows you to bring a unit of servitors and 2 servitors. I think they did change these slightly. The plasma cannon, I think, used to be 10 points, and it's 15 now, so it's 10 points per servitor. Yeah. And 2 of them can bring plasma cannons, or heavy bolters and multi-meltas. Those are still 10 points. But so you would essentially bring a Tech Priest plus a couple servitors, and you get some free plasma cannons, but more or less. I mean, very cheap plasma cannons. Being able to bring, for what would they be, 50 points? Yeah, 25 apiece. So for 50 points plus the Engine Seer, it's some plasma cannons.
Yeah. It's a way to bring that kind of buffy weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best of formations, but if you're looking if you really want a way to get plasma weapons in, then it's pretty good. The Tech Priest Engine Seer himself isn't too bad. He's not amazing, but it gets you a power axe in your army, as well as the ability to repair vehicles. Although,
well, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the wording of his special role, Awaken the Machine, allows you to basically use Power of the Machine Spirit, but only on Astra Militarum vehicles, which doesn't make any sense. It should just, if you're going to have this formation, and the idea is to be able to put it into other Imperial armies.
It should work with multiple different kinds of vehicles.
It's a pretty major, in my opinion, missed opportunity for them to actually make this better.
Do you think that might be an FAQ?
Maybe. It's possible. It could be one of those things. It's like, oh, this was actually a typo. It's supposed to be Imperium vehicles. But I wouldn't necessarily expect it either. It is... Sometimes you're just going to kind of ignore stuff like this and be like, we're just kind of pretending this didn't happen. I kind of think that's going to be the case with one of the future formations we're going to talk about. The benefit for bringing... Now, the only mandatory for this formation is the Engine Seer. So, essentially, if you want Engine Seers in your army, you can bring them for 40 points apiece. Like, the formation can literally just be the Engine Seer. The benefit of it is the units in this detachment. So if you had Servitors plus Engine Seer or just Engine Seer, they get the Canticles of the Omnissiah special rule. Without going into too much detail, you can choose, I think you only can choose one each time. Let's see.
I thought that's what we read before.
Okay, so yeah, the Canticle can only be used once per game. So when you choose it, you're basically using it, and you're only getting it once per game.
Okay.
So where this would probably be the most useful is you can take a single Engine Seer, stick him in a unit, and then roll for the Shroud Psalm. Shroud Psalm is either Stealth to Shrouded, if you roll between 1 and 3, or Stealth between 1 and 3, Shrouded between 4 and 7, Stealth and Shroud between 8. So the reason that's useful is that applies to the whole unit. So you can literally, for one turn, give an entire unit Stealth and Shrouded. Which isn't bad for 40 points. It's not amazing, but it's
only one turn, but I think that's going to be useful.
It's some shenanigans you can do with it. The other ones are basically the Engine Seer and Servitors, or just Engine Seer, be able to reroll hits, wounds. There's some plus to strength.
Yep. There's also Litany of the Electromancer. And
that's probably the other one, if you're just bringing the Engine Seer, that you're going to actually utilize. It'll be Shroud Psalm and Litany of the Engine Seer, or Electromancer. That one is enemy suffers a single Strength 4 AP- hit for each model with the Canticle's rule in units that are locked in combat. So in this case, it'd just be a Strength 4, and that's between a 1 and 3. 4 to 7 is 2 Strength 4 hits per model. So in other words, if you had Servitors, you'd be even more, but if it's just the Engine Seer, it's 2 hits. And then the final one is 8 or higher, is 3 hits per model. So, and that's also, all of those are at initiative step 10. So that's not too bad. It's a way to add a little bit of punch to something, so especially if you're going to be getting into combat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's more or less all there is to talk about for the Cult Mechanicus forces. It's some cheap-ish heavy weapons, and the Engine Seer.
With his kind of rules that you can bring.
Right. The Mechanicals aren't bad. Generally, they're only useful if you have other things with Mechanicals, which would be Skitarii. But, at the very minimum, 2 of those Mechanicals are still going to be useful for you, even if you're just shoving an Engine Seer into a squad.
Stealth and Shrouded to me would be pretty useful.
I would assume the best units to do that with would probably be units that are sitting back with a vehicle, so that the Engine Seer could attempt to repair the vehicle, things like that. But otherwise, the Engine Seers, unless you're running a lot of vehicles, you're kind of having a stationary force that's going to be camped out near a vehicle. You're probably going to skip on that, unless you're Skitarii. So the next one is Aeronautica Imperialis, and this is
the issue.
Okay, so I'm going to preface this. This is because of their most recent FAQ. But because of their most recent FAQ, this is the worst formation, and this is just the worst thing I've ever seen in a Codex. Period.
Why is it even here?
It is absolutely worthless currently. This is the one that desperately needs an FAQ to change it, or I could also very easily see Games Workshop just trying to pretend this one doesn't exist and be like, oops, our bad, and just going to leave it alone and just basically pretend they never made it. I could see that happening too. But essentially, all this subsection this faction is a Valkyrie and an officer of the fleet.
2 things. A plane.
That's the entire faction. So, the formation, obviously you can't do a CAD with this, or even an allied detachment, because you don't have a troop. So the only way to bring this is in a formation. The requirement is the fast attack, which is going to be a Valkyrie, and the optional is an HQ, which is the officer of the fleet. He's a 20-point model, largely forgettable. Basically, you're going to roll a leadership check at the start of your turn, and you can choose between getting a +1 reserve roll or a -1 to your enemy's reserve roll.
This isn't a bad.
That's not awful, but if this was reversed, I could actually see this getting some use. I could see if this was the HQ is required and the Valkyrie's optional, you could still possibly get some use out of this faction.
True.
Because you would just put like 20-point officers of the fleet in several different, troops.
HQ, a decent.
Well, if nothing else, he's an extra body. But on top of that, you can screw with your opponent's reserve roll. So you'd be like, all my shit's on the board, and every single one of my officers is going to sabotage your reserve roll. So now you only pass on a 6. There's a special rule for that. That you can never, you can't completely take away their ability to pass. They will always pass their reserve on a 6. Either way, it's going to be irrelevant because you're never going to actually take enough of them to matter, even if they do FAQ this thing. So why this matters is, as some of you may or may not be aware, their latest actual official FAQ now has stated allies cannot begin the game deployed in transport. Allied transport. Battle Brothers even. So these guys are always going to be Battle Brothers because these are their own faction.
Yeah.
Which means nothing can ever start the game in the Valkyrie.
So it's kind of a little bit of a
transport vehicle.
Here.
That's obviously the point of this formation, is to allow flyers for other factions that don't normally have flyers or don't have easy access to them. This is supposed to be a way to get flyers into their army and transports, right? But you can't. The Valkyrie is, if you just wanted a fighter, the Valkyrie is a piss poor choice. It's obviously a transport. It's only freaking ballistic skill 3. It's awful. Not that Valkyries can't do stuff. They can. But
for the particular uses of...
What the point of the Valkyrie is a transport. And
you want it for a transport, and you want it for a transport for other armies that are Battle Brothers that don't necessarily have this would be cool, and yet...
You can't do it. Yep.
Because of the because of the most recent FAQ.
That's all there is to say about... God. Yeah, that's all there is to say about the Aeronautica Imperialis.
It shouldn't be here.
It's currently garbage. Utter garbage is one of the most worthless things I've ever seen in print.
Unless they change it.
Unless they FAQ it. Now, if they FAQ it, then my opinion completely changes. If it actually... I mean, you have a reasonable argument that rules as intended, that you're supposed to be able to bring this and people are supposed to be able to ride in it. But, you know, rules as written, especially with the FAQ, is no, you can't.
Yeah.
So, it is utter garbage formation currently. Hopefully it does get an FAQ, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it.
Yeah, for now don't bother.
Yeah, for now it's worthless.
It's like 2 pages of
garbage.
Yeah.
Yep, currently.
So Adeptus Astra Telepathica.
Right, so that's the next one here. It's basically, this is going to be a quick, easy, cheap, dirty way to get Psychers into your army and get bonus warp charges. So,
Psychers.
You have one formation here. It is an HQ with 3 optional elite slots. In this section, there are 2 HQs and there's 1 elite. The elite is a 5-man squad of Wordbane Psychers. The benefit of this is your Psyker, or your HQ Psyker gets to harness warp charges on a 3 instead of a 4 if they're within 12 inches of Wordbane. But there has to be 5 units, or 5 models in the Wordbane unit.
So there always has to be 5? It doesn't, like if one of them dies, it no longer counts?
Correct.
Okay.
So, for this to be effective, you're almost going to have to bring multiple Wordvanes. Otherwise, someone just needs a single hit and...
Dead. It's only like...
Wordvane Psyker's dead, and your entire formation is worthless at that point. So, I sort of deem this formation, while usable, and you can do stuff with it.
It just seems like it could get canceled out rather quickly with a lucky turn 1.
The absolute best use of this formation is going to be to get Primary Psychers and Astropaths as single models. Basically, think of it as a 50-point upgrade that any Imperial army can take. So, basically, every single squad that's an Imperial army can now take a 50-point Primary Psyker.
Yes. Or a 25-point Astropath, although the Primary Psyker, my opinion, is...
The Primary Psyker's better, but he doesn't... If you want telepathy, you need Astropath. The Primary Psyker is 50 points. Can be made Mastery Level 2 for 25 points more. He has a Refractor Field and a 5-up save, and he's... Don't put him in a unit with a Commissar, because if he suffers a perils, the Commissar kills him instantly.
Commissar just... You tripped.
Yeah.
Die.
Yeah. Anyways, he can roll on Biomancy, Divination, Pyromancy, and Telekinesis. The Astropath is a 25-point Psyker. He can take a Refractor Field. He's Mastery Level 1. He can roll on Divination and Telepathy. He can also be upgraded for 25 points to be Mastery Level 2. Yep, that's more or less it for him. Oh, right, no, he also has Astropathic Orders, which is, if he if he succeeds at manifesting a psychic power, you can choose to reroll any reserve rolls next turn. So if you pass one, and you don't want it to come in, you can reroll it. If you fail one, you want it to come in, you can reroll it.
Nice.
So as long as he's continuously casting powers, that's good. Which means, although the Primary Psyker's probably better because he's got 2 wounds, whereas the Astropath, if he suffers perils, he's just dead. He's got 1 wound. I mean, obviously he can survive it, but the odds are pretty low. He's leadership 7 to begin with, and
versus the leadership 9 of the Primary Psyker.
The Primary Psyker is by far the better model.
But if you have things, if you have like different units that are really powerful,
if you have stuff coming in from reserves,
Astropath is 25 points,
and you can possibly, if you really need something coming in, turn 2, the Astropath is going to give you a really good chance to do that. And it's not just one reserve roll; it's any reserve rolls. So if you successfully manifest anything, you can even if you perils and he dies, you still get to re-roll those reserves. So. Astropath,
that's actually pretty useful.
Yeah,
like, I thought it would cancel out when he dies, but apparently, if he casts a power, even if he suffers a perils, you can still reroll.
It doesn't say he has to live; it just says he has to manifest a power. That's it. And even on perils, you've manifested, assuming it doesn't get denied.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's this formation I can definitely see being taken, just not for the command benefit. Yeah. It's basically you're taking it for
to get a Psyker or Astropath.
Yeah, you're taking it because you want to modify your reserve rolls or improve your chances of getting turn 2 reserves, or you're taking, or you want just a good Psyker in your army and you're going to take his Primaris and you're just going to shove him in, multiple different units.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a good set to do that with. Biomancy, Divination, Pyromancy, and Telekinesis. I mean, Divination, if nothing else, is always good. So, the Word Veins, they're Biomancy, Divination, Pyromancy, and Telekinesis. And I've already said the Astropath, so...
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, Adeptus Sororitas!
Yeah.
I'm excited. I've been waiting.
Well, I mean, okay. So, let's go into a little bit of detail on the Adeptus Sororitas before we start. This book is basically just a copy-paste from their digital codex.
Yeah.
It's just in print. There are a couple changes associated with that. Number one, the one thing I think most people are upset about is Celestine is not in here anymore. She has been removed.
Oh.
So that is one of the only 2 characters currently still in existence for the Sororitas, and she is now gone. Maybe she makes her return later, I don't know, but she is not in this codex. The other one is they modified the basic Battle Sisters Act of Faith. Instead of it only being preferred enemy in assault, it can now be shooting phase 2, which makes that so much better.
So that's a good benefit.
Yes, that actually is a good benefit.
We lost a character, but we gain extra on deck.
Let's see here. So we're start off with the Vestal Task Force. It's basically a CAD. The difference between it and a CAD is you have to take an elite, but if you're taking sisters, you're probably going to be taking elite anyways. So, not really that much of a penalty. The downside, the choice becomes you either want the one benefit here or you want objective secured. And the benefit here is once per game, you can reroll any failed saving throws of 1 until the start of your next turn. So, you could do that, and maybe you're in an assault, and then you can even reroll failed saving throws of 1 during the next assault, and then into your next turn. So, I mean, it's good. It's only once per game, but, the question is going to be, is it worth giving up objective secured versus that? And that's going to really come down to a match-by-match basis, I think. I'm sure some games, just trying to keep as many sisters alive, because you're going to be doing it turn 2 almost every time. Almost every time. Not every time, but almost every time you're going to be, executing this ability turn 2 or 1 in hopes of keeping as many sisters alive turn 1 so that you can, continue to get max firepower possible.
There's also have another Blessed Warrior.
Yeah, alright, and so I think there's been a lot of confusion. Sisters of Faith, or Sisters of Battle, and all of them still do have their Shield of Faith ability, and that is a 6 of Pinbone plus any targeted powers on them can be denied on a 5-up.
Yes.
For Deny the Witch instead of 6. That doesn't apply if they're buffing themselves, but if they're trying to attack you with a psychic power, it's still a nice benefit.
Yeah, it is.
It makes them pretty decent for being anti-psyker. And they also have several weapons that have been modified. The Condemner Bolt Gun, pretty much almost every Sergeant or Sister Superior type character can bring this. It is a weapon that on a hit causes a Perils of the Warp, not a test, causes Perils of the Warp on a random psyker in the unit. So
I'm not
that's pretty
psyker,
scary.
So.
That's pretty scary if you're fielding psychers.
Yeah.
And it's not a leadership test. It's you suffer Perils of the Warp on a random psyker.
And it has to be a hit, so it's not even on the wound.
Yep, you don't even have to wound him, and you don't even have to hit a psyker. You just have to hit a unit with a psyker in it. So yeah, it's pretty good. We need to take a short break. I forgot to delete some old stuff on the camera. So
But we'll be back.
Yeah. So that more or less covers the Vestal Task Force. The other one is probably one that I think
this is the one that's probably going to be used mostly, especially since
if you're not playing with sisters, this is the one you care about, basically. And for better or for worse, this is going to be a formation that I think will be... And in fairness, I actually see this as not being that non-fluffy either. Like, priests would be all over the Imperium.
Yeah, that's true. You'd be using them a lot, not just with the Hereticus.
This doesn't bother me. This one doesn't, at least. But you're going to see... Basically, it's a way to take priests with other armies. Mm-hmm. And that's the function of this, essentially. It is called Ministorum Delegation. It is 1 HQ and 1 Elite from the Sisters Codex. Now, the Elites, obviously, you can bring some of the normal Sisters, like the Repentia or the, not Command Squad. Like the Repentia or...
Seraphim.
No, Seraphim.
Seraphim.
Celestians. Yeah, so Repentia or Celestians, or you can bring the Death Cults, Archoflagellants, or Crusaders. Of those, if you're actually looking for the command benefit here, it applies Shield of Faith to all models brought. All those models already have Shield of Faith or better Invuln. Except for the Flagellants there, they have no save whatsoever except for Fill No Pans. So they would actually benefit the most if you're going to bring this. But you don't have to bring any Elite. You can basically just bring
HQ, I think.
25-point priests. Yeah.
That's right.
It's not HQ, it's only priests.
Yeah. So you can't bring the Canonist with them.
Right.
Which, that kind of, that annoys me a little.
So, essentially you can basically take priests and shove them in close combat squads, across the Imperium, be it, Deathwing Terminators, be it, you shove them with a vet squad that's geared for melee for Deathwatch, or even, whatever, Grey Knights, Ogrins, whatever you want to put them with. If they're a melee squad, they will benefit from having a priest, because you get to use one of 3 hymns. One lets you reroll failed armor and invuln saves. One lets you reroll failed to wounds, and the other gives the priest smash. And this isn't a roll. This isn't like a random determined what you get. You pick what you want, and then your priest takes a leadership test. Now, bear in mind your priest is leadership 7, which is garbage. But there's a named priest in here that you can take. Uriah Jacobus. Mm-hmm. And he is leadership 9, so...
He's pretty badass.
Yeah. So, he's quite good. And I don't need to say anything about him. If your sisters, you're familiar with him, but he is a very, very good priest. Mm-hmm. Worth every point for him.
Worth all the 100 points.
Every point of his 100. Either way, this is going to be a way to get... You're going to start seeing people do this, I'm sure, pretty quickly if they, look into this. Priests are very nice buffer units just to include, and they're only 25 points. So, 25-point upgrade to, let your melee squad reroll failed wounds or failed saves. Yeah. Now, this only does work in the close combat phase. So, you can only do hymns when you're locked in close combat. So, you can't do it
shooting or anything.
Right. So it's not going to help protect you from being shot, but that's the reason you're going to include this only in the close combat squads. Mm-hmm. But they're still quite useful. And that one's going to be one of the ones I think you're going to see a lot. I'm not going to talk about the sisters too much. They're essentially across the board weapon skill 4, or weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, 3 initiative, 1 attack, and leadership 8. And that's pretty much across the board for the sisters. There are some modifications, like veteran sergeant or superiors are +1 leadership, +1 attack. Your command squad is essentially all made of veteran superiors. I think a Celestian squad is also like vets, essentially.
Are we going to talk about the awesome Death Cult Assassin?
This isn't new. This has been in there, but yeah, Death Cult Assassins are pretty good. Essentially, they're basically sort of pseudo-false Harlequins for the Imperium. At initiative 6, strength 4, and weapon skill 5, they're an AP 3. basically talking Harlequins. The downside is they don't have all that nice stuff where Harlequins can completely ignore terrain, and they don't have grenades, so if you're charging into cover, they're initiative 1, so...
So they don't have like any of those special weapons that could come with Harlequins as well. Nothing really too similar to that.
But, I mean...
For an ultra powerful, crazy...
For 15 points, you're basically paying for a power sword and getting a model at initiative 6 with on the charge 4 attacks.
So why not?
I mean, they're reasonably good, and they have 5-up involts. So, yeah, I mean, they're reasonably good. Crusaders are weapon skill 4, everything else 3, normal like guardsman type stats. 8 leadership though, power sword, storm shield, 15 points for a model. Their gear is worth more than the model apparently. So you're paying 15 points for a model with 25 points worth of gear. Okay. They're not going to set the world on fire, but they're going to be a good. They're a good way to basically get people stuck. They're going to be a good tar pit essentially.
Locked in combat.
People are going to struggle to really deal with all that, and especially if you put them with like Jacobus or something that gives them fearless, then
they're useful.
Yeah, they will become a good tar pit to basically lock most stuff down. The flagellants here, they are strength 5, weapon skill 5.
Jeez.
Feel no pain, 5-up. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get them into close combat, something's going to hurt.
Not only that, you can have them with...
And if you take them as part of the formation, they have 6-up, feel no pain. And if they go with Jacobus, and he's your warlord, they become a 5-up invuln with a 5-up feel no pain.
So pretty much, 5.
Yeah, they can be taken in a squad of up to 10. Same for the Crusaders and same for the Death Cult Assassins. All those can be up to a squad of 10. That's going to be relevant for some of the formations later on. But, yeah, I mean, the downside is they're in the Sisters, and the Sisters do not have an assault vehicle.
No.
Which really hurts these guys' survivability.
Sure would have been nice to have that one Valkyrie, but you can't use it.
Well, I don't think Valkyrie's assault, is it? I don't think so.
Well, that's the transport.
We'll find out. I don't think Valkyrie's assault. No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
So it wouldn't help.
Right.
It wouldn't help for that. However, later on, there's a way to sort of negate that, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah. Otherwise, not too much else to talk about. The Rhino is here. The Immolator is back, much to a lot of people's happiness. The Immolator is an amazing vehicle for 60 points. Yeah, I don't have too much more to say about it. That is an awesome vehicle. It's especially your vehicles for Sororitas have a 6-up invuln and a 5-up adamantium will. So hurting them is hard. The Exorcist is a either amazing or very awful, depending on how lucky you are. But, if you get a couple good rolls with an Exorcist, your opponent's basically going to concede.
Penitent engines.
Yeah, they're back. I mean, this is the Ecclesiarchy Battle Conclave is also back. This gives everything in this formation Shield of Faith, which is good. You must take a Ministorum Priest or Jacobus. So if you take Jacobus, you make him his warlord. The entire unit has Shield of Faith, and so the entire unit would then get 5-up invulns. And I believe his warlord, was it re-rolling, or was it?
I think it was. Yeah, it wasn't. It was re-rolling. It was
No, it was just 5-up. It adds
5-up?
1. Yeah, so basically all of their that's right. In close combat, they would get a re-roll that invuln save. So essentially, it would give the Death Cult Assassins in close combat a 5-up re-rollable invuln, and it would give the Flagellants a 5-up invuln if you took Jacobus and made him your warlord. So the formation itself, the formation itself is that plus the 3 to 10 units chosen in any combination. So not squads, you're actually talking about units here. So you can have up to 10 models in this formation, and they can be from the Flagellants, the Crusaders, and the Death Cult Assassins. So you can basically mix and match. If you're going to bring 10, you're probably going to bring about 3 Crusaders, maybe 1 to 2 Flagellants, and probably
Death Cult Assassins.
Yeah, probably fix the rest with Death Cults plus your Priest or Jacobus. And you're going to shove the Crusaders out front to hopefully soak wounds and God help anyone you get into close combat with, because that would be pretty brutal for them.
And then, with the Death Cult Assassins in there.
Yeah.
No one will be happy.
Nope. So that's your Battle Enclave. That is now a formation. So, I don't remember if it was a formation initially or if it was just a squad. But
I don't remember.
If it was just a squad, then this is actually a benefit, because now you can just bring a formation, and that if all you wanted was this Battle Enclave, you can just bring a formation. These can take as a dedicated transport a Rhino or an Immolator, although based on the size, the Immolator's only 6 model counts.
So probably the Rhino.
That's more or less it for the Sisters. Nothing else really has changed, I don't think. Looks like more or less things are the same. Deathwatch is the next section here.
Excuse me. Sorry.
So the Deathwatch have one formation. It is basically just a squad of vets. They actually basically considered an Aquila kill team, which is sort of a benefit over the Deathwatch Codex. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see even people fielding Deathwatch armies using this if all you want is a troop that can still have an Aquila doctrine. You don't want to put other. You don't want to be forced into different weapons or having. With the Aquila team, I think you have to have at least one squad of something else, like Adder Terminator or an Assault Marine or something.
Yeah,
with this, you don't have to.
Troops.
It's literally just the 5 vets is all that's mandatory. You have all your usual war gear here. The one notable thing missing here is the bolt gun is not under ranged weapons anymore, which does put the kibosh there on the whole. I'm changing my bolt gun to a shotgun, and I'm changing my melee weapon to a bolt gun.
Oh, right, yeah.
So bolt gun,
craziness.
At least in this codex, like if you're taking this formation, you can't take bolt gun shotgun. You can still do shotgun plus like combi weapon, because that's under ranged weapons, or shotgun stormbolter, or things like that. But you're gonna have to pay points for it. So basically, you upgrade or change your bolt gun to a shotgun for free, and then pay 10 points for a combi weapon. You can do that, but you're gonna basically pay for it. Whether or not that ends up being something that they FAQ into the Deathwatch Codex, as of this video, that's not a thing. So as of this video, you can still bolt gun shotgun, but I would consider this change indicative.
I
don't think it'll necessarily apply currently, but I can see that as being indicative of Games Workshop's feelings about bolt gun shotgun. I actually think it's relatively fluffy for the Deathwatch. Like you would think because they basically equip themselves to deal with any situation.
That's
so
true.
Shotgun and a bolt gun would make sense. They've equipped themselves to fight a situation. And,
depending on the Xenos enemy they wish to destroy.
Yeah, so I think it's relatively fluffy, but you can see this as sort of Games Workshop telling you how they feel about it. But that's the one notable thing missing in this formation. Otherwise, all your normal stuff is here. You can give them missile launchers, Hellfire, rounds for your Infernus, Deathwatch frag cannons, Deathwatch shotguns, all that's in here. Including the new current favorite here. Is it? Here, oh, wait, hold on. Da-da-da. No, that is conspicuously...
Uh-oh.
Oh, wait, no, it's still...
Okay, so it's under the veteran. All right.
Yeah, even the new favorite for everyone, which is the Heavy Thunderhammer, Strength 10, Instant Deathing, Madness, that is the Heavy Thunderhammer. You can still do that as well. So, you still have Black Shields, you still have... Right? Yep, you still have Black Shields. Basically, it's the same vet squad. All their fun weapon choices are here. You can kit them for melee, you can kit them for range, you can kit them for close quarters. There is no drop pod available here. the only dedicated transport you can take is a Corvus, which isn't a bad transport. Corvus is quite powerful. However, that does mean you are making a pretty hefty investment. If
180 points.
180 points for a bare, no modification Corvus, as well as 110 points for no modification vets. So you're looking at you're looking at a good 350 plus at least worth of point investment here. Well, it's probably a fair bit more, because equipping Deathwatch with what you want them to have, plus upgrading the Corvus, is going to set you back. So if you're bringing the formation, especially if you're bringing the Corvus, it's going to set you back. But you sort of get what you pay for. The vets, especially with all their weapons, which if you can find a good target, are quite functional, as we've demonstrated several times on the channel. They are, however, very fragile too, which we've also demonstrated.
Yes.
It's very easy to lose, guys. But yeah, otherwise, all the special weapon, special ammo, all that's still here. Same vets. Next, Grey Knights. So you kind of have a mini Nemesis Strike Force formation here with the Grey Knights. You have a troop, a fast attack, and an optional heavy support.
Yeah.
Not heavy support here.
Okay.
Although it's...
But that looks like...
Yeah, they used the wrong symbol.
Well, I saw the symbol, I'm like...
No, you're right, because when I looked at it, I'm like, that is elite symbol. I'm like, is the Dread Knight elite? No, it's heavy support. There's a typo or graphical error. It's the symbol for an elite, but it is labeled heavy support. And it's obviously intended to be heavy support because there's only 3 units in this codex for Grey Knights. That is the Terminator Squad, the Interceptor Squad, and the Nemesis Dread Knight. The Nemesis Dread Knight looks retarded, so awesome. But anyone who mocks it's probably going to be dead pretty quick, because that thing is some scary shit. So it is, you only have 1 slot optional for heavy support, so you can bring, basically, if you bring a Terminator Squad and a Interceptor Squad, you get a Dread Knight as well if you want. Which, if you're gonna bring a Terminator Squad and an Interceptor Squad, you're probably gonna bring that Dread Knight as well. The benefit you get is Rites of Teleportation, which is you can start making your reserve rolls starting from turn 1 if you wish to.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see. These units arrive from Deep Strike on reserve on turn 1 on a roll of a 3+. So, yeah. And all units in the detachment can run and shoot the turn they appear. So.
Hooray! That's wow.
Really? For those not familiar with the Grey Knights, they are all Psychers. Even their Dread Knight is a Psyker. They also have some absolutely insane weaponry. They're pretty awesome in the ability to quick and dirty shoehorn squads of these guys in is pretty good.
And they can now, with that formation, just come in, land, run, and shoot. Right.
So, a Grey Knight Terminator Squad is 165 points. That is pretty cheap for turns.
Yeah, that's not...
Generally, Terminator Squads are 50 points per model. These guys are 165 points for 5 of them. And they also count as Brotherhood of Psychers, and they know Banishment and Hammerhand from the Sanctic. So there you go. Let's see here.
130 points for the Interceptor Squad.
Oops. The Interceptor Squad also knows Banishment, Sanctic, and as does the...
Dread Knight.
No, the Dread Knight knows Banishment and Sanctuary, which is amazing. Basically, Sanctuary gives this thing a 4-up invuln save, essentially. Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah. Anyways, basically, also all Grenades have preferred enemy demons and purity of spirit, which means they do not. Normally, if you roll in demonology, you peril on any doubles unless you're a demon.
No, of course.
The Grey Knights, all their units have purity of spirit, which means they do not peril on doubles, unless it's double sixes, I think.
Which makes sense, but essentially still, I mean, who wouldn't peril on that?
Yeah. Yeah, they're very powerful. Their weaponry and options are pretty insane. If you're familiar with the Grey Knights, I'm not going to, again, go into details on them, but they're pretty awesome. Interceptor squads are good shit as well. Yeah. Most of the all the normal war gear is here. Also in this section you have Land Raiders of all three varieties. You have the Classic, the Crusader, and the Redeemer. There's no real modifications here. They're just your classic Land Raiders. Normal price point, all that. And they're a dedicated transport option for the Terminator troops, or for the Terminator squad. There is no dedicated option for the Interceptors, but that's okay. They're jump, so it's not that big a deal. And that more or less is going to cover the Grey Knights. Which brings us to
the Legion of the Damned,
which is one of the more interesting inclusions in this codex. I'm not really sure how they how they fit into the agents of the Imperium, considering they're basically cursed guys that appear out of the warp randomly and
yeah, these guys.
and essentially save what would be a losing battle for the Imperium. But nevertheless, they're in this book.
Oh, they are
and
special.
I'm not familiar with Legion of the Damned, so I don't know if this is a new formation or not. I'm going to go ahead and go over it. If it is, then it's an awesome formation. If it's not, then this was an awesome formation. Essentially, it's one elite, there's only one unit in Legion of the Damned. It's Damned Legionnaires. And then you can have optional 1 to 3 more. Benefit is all units in the detachment must begin in Deep Strike Reserve, and then you can choose to automatically pass or fail any reserve rolls you make. So you don't have to roll. Essentially, they just come in when you want them to come in. Which is awesome. That's awesome. And that is also, when you look at the fluff for these guys, that is very fluffy for them too. So I think this is a kick-ass thing. If they had this before, then awesome. I'm not familiar.
If they did it now,
but that's part of the nice thing of this book. It can introduce you to a lot of stuff that you would have to own a bunch of smaller codexes for, and you have to shuffle around and find what you want and out of this codex or that codex or that codex, and it's all now in a nice condensed book.
It compiles things from the old as well as introduces a lot of new things that can be brought in.
And that's one of the best things I would say about this codex, even if you don't necessarily like all the formations or
contentious with
have some contentious issues with some of them or whatever it is. There's at least a good aspect to this. In any case, you have I don't think these guys are any different. They all have 3-up invulns. They also have Deep Strike, Fear, Fearless, Slow, and Purposeful.
Everything.
All the grenade or frag and crack, bolt gun, bolt pistol. They get when they arrive from Deep Strike, you can choose to re-roll your 2d6 and the scatter dice. It doesn't say or, so I think you got to re-roll all of it at the same time. So if you barely scatter, you're better off just taking the scatter, because you could scatter 12
even further,
inches.
yeah.
So, or a mishap. So if it's not going to be the end of the world, or you're not going to be way too far away, you're better off not re-rolling. But if it's going to be a difference maker on your positioning, then yes, re-roll. It's still really nice to have. They have flaming projectiles, which they've had this one, I remember. It's ignores cover. So no matter what they shoot, it's ignores cover. Pretty good.
They also have Unyielding Spectre, which
they all get 3-up. 3-up invuln instead of 3-up armor. They're 3-up invuln basically. So they always get 3-up. One model out of the 5-man squad can take a special weapon. You can include up to 5 additional. I don't know why you would, but you can. And then another Legionnaire can either bring a heavy flamer or a multi-melta. So, I mean, you already have ignores cover, so the heavy flamer, I mean...
But the multi...
heavy flamer is always good, so I can't really say it's a bad choice, but... I feel like if you're going to be able to choose when they come in, and you only have one squad, you're probably going to be bringing a melta-gun and a multi-melta, because you're going to ignore cover, and you got to re-roll that scatter.
Yeah.
So you're going to be trying to put them right behind, some vehicle.
And just
and if you scatter too far away, you'll be like, I'm going to re-roll that, and then even if that's a jinking vehicle, it doesn't help because you ignore cover. So, or you pop smoke. Too bad. I don't care.
The vehicle will still blow up.
Yeah, hopefully. You can always miss, obviously.
That's true, you can always miss. And
these guys they're still only ballistic skill 4, so they're not 5, so they're not, they're not almost a guarantee. But, and slow and purposeful lets them move and shoot that multi-melta still.
Oh,
The rest of and then your sergeant can take from the ranged weapons, which plasma pistol, bolt gun, or storm bolter. So that's it for the Legion of Damned. I don't really have any other interesting stuff here, but they're
it's still pretty awesome. I think
they're quite interesting, and I like the formation. Like I said, I don't know if it's there because I didn't have this I didn't have this book, but it is a really cool formation. And if they had it before, then that's just introducing more people to it, which is phenomenal. If they didn't, then it's an awesome, fluffy formation. Next, we have the Assassins. Nothing to really do here. This is exactly out of the book, Assassins. They did clarify a couple things, more specifically about the Colexis.
Yeah, the Colexis, I remember they
clarified about the Colexis that you cannot add modifiers when you're shooting at him, because normally he reduces people's weapon skill and ballistic skill to 1.
So for me,
marker lights
don't work, which kind of sucks.
So you can't improve your chances to hit him above a 6. So you only hit Colexis on a 6, which is it was pretty obvious that was the intent.
Yeah.
But it's nice to at least see them clarifying a rule like that can be debated. I mean, you have intent, but not everyone necessarily, sees intent the way you do.
Sees intent or wants to.
Or wants to see intent.
Spells it out.
Yeah, it spells it out, which is nice. You just kind of wish they'd done that a little better with some of the other stuff in this book. They kind of clarified some things, and then they made some other stuff more hard to tell. So the final bit of this book is the Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Inquisition.
And this is going to be one of the most contentious formations I've seen, and is going to cause all sorts of weirdness in your battles with the Imperium and for the Imperium. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll come right back.